Hi everyone, welcome to Voice of Crypto's podcast, and we're coming in live from Token 2049 Singapore. We have a really interesting guest from Gemini with us, the CEO of Gemini, Mr. Pravjit Tiwana. Hi, sir. It's really great to have you on our show today. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me, and I'm doing very well. Hope you're having a great conference.
We are, and hope you're having a great conference too.
It's phenomenal to always be here and enjoy the vibe and energy which you have here in Singapore.
Absolutely. So, as the CEO of Gemini Asia Pacific region, you have a unique vantage point on the global cryptocurrency landscape. What recent trends have sort of caught your attention, and how do you see them shaping the future of this industry?
Yeah. Crypto and Web3 in general is a very transformative change, and it takes a long period of time before it becomes established as a mainstream. If you even look at the evolution of internet, right, like when it started, or e-commerce when it started in the 90s, it went through the same cycle of, right, like initial hype, and then there was a dot-com burst, and then what the point is that, right, like the same as any transformative change, that's the point which crypto and Web3 is going on right now. The first and foremost thing is the technology maturity. Speculation probably became a product faster than the technology was mature. So we'll see lots and lots of investments from companies, especially like Gemini, in the area of, right, like security or fraud or more transparency and account management and all those kind of things. I think next 1 or 2 years will be very intense on making the technology grow to the place where it should be. The second thing is, right, like as the speculation hype becomes a little less and the technology starts to mature, the other important thing is we will start seeing more and more pragmatic use cases come. Like the core reason why Web3 came into place, which was like decentralized internet, right? Like what we are doing with, say, Starbucks Odyssey for our NFTs in terms of rewards and referral program, or the cross-border payments, like these kind of pragmatic use cases, you will see more and more come into picture. The third thing is, right, like since it's a relatively a newer industry, right, like from traditional finance to decentralized finance, you'll find that the sensible and more thought through regulations across the world will start coming in, which is the right thing to happen. And as long as those are well thought and are uniform, you'll see more and more of those things. So I see these are the three main things which will happen in the next year or two as we evolve into the next stage of this journey.
Absolutely, makes a lot of sense. Despite the constant growth or evolution in the space that we have seen, regulation continues to be a significant topic in the crypto world. And how do you envision the delicate balance between fostering innovation and ensuring consumer protection? And what role do you think that exchanges like Gemini can play in shaping that sort of a future?
Yeah, I think it's not like a either or thing that like if you have to do innovation, you don't have to focus on the consumer protection and those. It's absolutely an and thing, right? Like we have to do both the things to be successful in this industry, right? Like so, I do see, right, like, and this is the one of the main things which we are at Gemini also focusing, and I'm pretty sure like many of our mature competitors also are doing the same thing where we are investing a lot in these fundamentals, right? Like as I was saying, right? Like one thing you have to look into is like, right, like blockchain itself. The promise of blockchain is very simple. It's a shared database which has entries, and there is a peer-to-peer network which validates those entries are valid or not, and it's encrypted, right? The problem comes in, especially when it comes to regulations and security aspects, is like the identity of who is making those entries on the blockchain and what is their intent. These are the core things on which the industry and especially we are focusing a lot on figuring out, right? Like, hey, is the person who is making this thing is actually the genuine person? So our KYC mechanisms are we are using a lot of AI into that and machine learning and large amount of data to figure out like the identity is the actual identity. And then the second is intent, right? Like our industry can, since there is a money flow involved, there can be problems varying from like money laundering and those kind of things. So but there is another area where, in combination of this, when you put together with regulations, right, like I think innovation as well as consumer safety will become the most important thing.
Absolutely. So cryptocurrencies have sort of evolved from a niche interest to now a mainstream phenomena. We still have a long way from cryptocurrencies becoming a mainstream phenomena, but relatively. So, what factors, in your opinion, have contributed to this sort of shift from cryptocurrencies being, let's say, only a techie's game ball, and now to almost not everyone, but at least people in the developing nations pivoting towards cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, I think this is similar to what I was saying before, right? Like this is a transformative change. Like even if you see it Web 1.0 or internet, it takes almost like 8 to 10 years before people start realizing what is the value out of this thing. I think crypto industry is going through the same phase. People are finding a lot of pragmatic use cases and understanding what is wrong in the current set of internet, or what are the deficiencies of Web 2.0, and understanding that this decentralized finance and you controlling all your data to yourself and not sending it to the intermediaries or central companies is really beneficial for them. So I think that learning always have a curve. Like people look into the use cases, they understand. The best learning is when people learn from themselves, right? Like so that is the cycle which is going on. And as an industry, we also have been putting a lot of focus, like if you look at Gemini, we have our own Cryptopedia to Gemini Trust Center, where we basically share all the information about how the funds are managed. So people are getting trust, and safety is the reason why people will keep on coming more and more into crypto industry.
Absolutely. So, with the growth of decentralized finance, people are envisioning traditional finance to sort of get disrupted. How do you envision a future for both decentralized finance and traditional finance? Do you think that it will go hand in hand, or will one take over another? How is it according to you?
I see like decentralized finance, which is based out of blockchain and smart contracts and so on, right? I don't see it as either versus or thing. I think decentralized finance is evolution of traditional finance. Like as markets mature, as industries evolve, this is the next step, right? Like so, the use cases which you have in traditional finance, from like saving accounts to lending to payments, all those things are equally portable to decentralized finance. But the way or the mechanism in which it is done in a decentralized finance, where there is no intermediaries, and it brings a lot of efficiency, a lot of cost down, a lot of global reach, those are the things which people will find from decentralized finance. So it's basically a next step for traditional finance.
Yeah.
It's not like either or thing.
They would have to go hand in hand, or probably evolve
Yes.
from one to another.
Yeah, in fullness of time means I don't foresee that there will be much difference between traditional finance and decentralized finance. Over the period of time, they will merge into the same scenarios. The good things which are there in traditional finance and the good things which are there in the decentralized finance, they will work together. Like if you see, traditional finance has built a lot of good trust and safety mechanisms, right, over the centuries, right? Those things have to be ported over to decentralized finance in terms of trust and safety, but the use cases will still be the same.
Absolutely. So I noticed that some of the keywords that that you particularly used were trust and safety, which I really like. However, in the cryptocurrency space, cyber crimes have been rampant, and for consumers, safety and security is still sort of a question mark for a lot of customers. So, what protective measures do you believe that the industry needs to take, and what sort of potential measures are you at Gemini already taking to sort of ensure that cryptocurrency trading does not look like gambling?
Yeah. See, security is the most important. We at Gemini have always taken the security first approach, right? Like security and compliance and trust and safety, those are the kind of things which we have always taken pride in, and will continue to invest more and more. I think in this case, cybersecurity, if you see, right, like the cybersecurity space has evolved even in Web 2.0 or Web 1.0. It takes time, right? Like this goes to the point which I was saying before, that the technology hasn't matured enough. But if you see last year and probably the next year, there is so much investment in the industry in terms of like, how do we do KYC? How do we manage your keys? How do we do the compliance journey? All these things is something which we are investing in. In the end, security is hinged with transparency, right? The more we make transparent all the transactions which happen on the blockchain, or how the funds are managed. So our focus at Gemini is to be as transparent as possible. That's why if you see, we have invested in things like Gemini Trust Center. We publish our KPIs, we publish our metrics. We want to be as open and transparent as possible, and we'll continue to do so.
Absolutely. Another tricky arena, so to say, has been regulations and compliance, and a lot of exchanges have sort of been not receiving great response from regulators across the globe. So how do you strike a balance between compliance, regulations, as well as user products?
I think it's two-way street, right? Like, yes, we as crypto companies have also need to focus a lot on the pragmatic use cases. Like, if we continue to push too much of, like, if the industry continues to push too much on the speculative aspects of it, like, it creates a lot of hype around it. And same way, regulators also have to start looking at not from the perspective of what is being, like, what are the products out there, but what do customer problems does Web3 and crypto solve? If they work backward from the problems to be solved, I think there will be a mid intersection point where these things can be sorted out well. And it's not like that globally regulators are not involved, right? Like even in Singapore or in Europe, right? Like many places, the right regulations have started to come in, and there is a right set of discussions. And regulations are also like an evolution, right? Like the software and regulations, they evolve over a period of time as you understand use cases, the technology, and so forward.
Absolutely. Lastly, I would like to talk about education in this space, and we know that education has to be the focal point for demystifying the landscape of cryptocurrencies. So, how are you at Gemini ensuring that that there is more education material out there, and you're able to onboard more people into this space, because ultimately that is the goal of a lot of Web3 entrepreneurs or organizations, right?
Yeah, I think the basic things around, right, like having the right content out or right videos around or conferences like Token 2049, right, like these do help in the education. But I think the core thing which industry has to solve and which has started to happen is to focus on what problems does Web3 and crypto solve, not focus too much on what products we have to offer and why people should buy that. Once masses start understanding the deficiencies in Web 2.0 and what are the problems which can be solved by Web3, it becomes easier for people to correlate it, how it is solving them or helping them. And that's the key, right? Like, and that's what we are also focusing on, going into, right? Like, here are the challenges. Like, even if you take payments or cross-border payments or remittance, right? Like, there can be one way we say, oh, here is a product, why don't you use it? And another is we show that, right? Like, how intermediaries make it so expensive and so slow, and keep like a lot of people who don't have access to banking outside of it, right? Like, so those are the kind of problems which we have to look at and work backward from them, not right like, hey, here is the product, why don't you use it?
Absolutely. Do you have any final closing thoughts?
No, I'm in general very excited about what Web3 brings. I highly believe in the core ethos of Web3, in the decentralized finance as well as decentralized internet. I have worked many years in cloud computing and internet and have seen firsthand, like, right, like what are those deficiencies. And I'm very excited that Web3 provides us an ability to plug those holes. And I'm also excited about the ability to plug those holes in terms of maturing the technology, right? Like, I see my role as bigger and bigger as a builder in this. And probably 3-5 years from now, we will sit back and say that, hey, this journey does mean things and the technology has matured.
Absolutely. And so we hope. Thank you so much for talking with Voice of Crypto today. It was a pleasure to interview you.
Thank you so much for having me.